Hello students, welcome to the Rankers Academy. Myself Yogeshri. फिजिक्स सब्जेक्टच्या सिरीजमध्ये पहिल्या लेक्चरमध्ये आज आपण बघणार आहे 12वीचा एक सगळ्यात महत्त्वाचा पॉइंट जो की आहे किर्चॉफ्स लॉ. Kirchhoff is the name of scientist who has given two different laws. So in the first video we'll see the Kirchhoff's first law. Kirchhoff's first law is also called as current law or junction law. Now first we'll see that why it is called as a current law and why it is called as a junction law. Kirchhoff's first law is called as a current law because it gives the relation of current at a point which is called as a junction. Now students, what is mean by junction point? So the junction is the point where all the different currents will meet at that particular point. Suppose this diagram at the point P we can call the junction point because the different currents are arriving or some currents are leaving from that particular point P. So P point is called as a junction point, and this law gives the relation of all the current at the point P, so that we can call it as a current law or junction law. So first we should have to see the statement of Kirchhoff's first law. Kirchhoff's first law states that the algebraic sum of all the current at a junction is equal to 0. In any electrical network, consider any simplified electrical network, the total current at that particular point which is called as a junction is equal to 0. So how we can write it in the mathematical form? See here, summation. What is mean by summation? Sum of all. Sum of all means from first to nth number we can add or we can subtract all the current at that particular point. I represents the current. So summation I is equal to 0. It means that summation of algebraic sum of all the current from 1 to n is equal to 0. Now we have to prove it mathematically also. What represents the I? I is the current in the ith conductor. Now see, to prove this, consider this figure. Now P is the point where we can call it as a junction point. At the point P, there are different currents have been drawn. Now suppose the first current is the I1. You can see the arrows. Arrow shows the direction of current. In this Kirchhoff's first law, the very important role is for the direction, because direction only represents the sign. How when we can take the positive sign and when we can take the negative sign can be represented by these arrows only. So we have to consider these arrows very carefully. Now at the point P, if you see first the current I1 is leaving from the junction. This arrow shows that a current I1 is leaving from the junction. Similarly, the second current I2 is arriving at a junction. Current I3 is again leaving from the junction. I4 is arriving at a junction. I5 is leaving from the junction, and I6 is also arriving at a junction. Now I want to find the total current at this particular point P. So I have to use, to simplify this electric network, I have to use the Kirchhoff's first law. So how we can use the Kirchhoff's first law? Obviously, the total current is 0. As I know from the statement, the total current at point P is equal to 0. But how to find the total current? When we can take the positive current and when we can take the negative current. So to study the sign convention, we'll see here the rules for the sign convention of Kirchhoff's law. The first rule is current arriving at a junction, you have to consider it positive. Current leaving from the junction, we have to consider it negative. जर करंट आपल्याकडे येत असेल, आपल्याकडे म्हणजे जंक्शन कडे, तर तो पॉझिटिव्ह कन्सिडर करायचा, आणि जर तो जंक्शन पासून बाहेर जात असेल तर तो निगेटिव्ह कन्सिडर करायचा. सी, सो नाउ वी विल राइट द मॅथमॅटिकल इक्वेशन. I1 is current leaving from the junction, so we have to consider it negative, minus I1. I2 is arriving at a junction, plus I2. I3 leaving from the junction, minus I3. I4 arriving at a junction, plus I4. I5 leaving from the junction, minus I5, and I6 arriving at a junction, plus I6, and the total of this current is equal to 0. So what we can conclude from this? We can conclude that total current arriving at a junction is equal to total current leaving from the junction. This is the Kirchhoff's first law. Thank you.